Welcome to Josh's House of Nerd podcast.
Hello, Nerd Nation. I'm Josh, and I welcome you to the podcast. Grab a cold evergreen goblet of blue milk and make yourself comfortable here at my House of Nerd. Now for tonight's sponsor, when you're out and about enjoying the sun and you feel that special sensation of your flesh burning off, think of sunscreen. It might not prevent your skin from actually burning off, but what it will help you do is feel better with its refreshing aloe and chamomile formula. Sunscreen, when you feel the yearn, to calm the burn. And now for tonight's movie that we're doing. This month we are talking about psychological thrillers, and this week we are talking about the pick that I gave these guys, the 2007 movie Sunshine, directed by Danny Boyle, which is about a group of people that is taking a very large bomb to restart the sun, which is starting to cool down. Starring Cillian Murphy, Rose Byrne, Cliff Curtis, Chris Evans, Troy Garrity, Hiroyuki Sanada, and Benedict Wong, and Michelle Yeoh, which this is a great cast. Let's talk about this movie, guys. And stuff. They had a really good cast. My goodness.
Yeah, that was a great cast.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about this. You just see the power of all the characters in this movie. I mean, they are just on fire.
I forget Cliff Curtis even exists until I watch Sunshine, though.
Which one's Cliff Curtis?
He's the doctor.
Oh, okay. Okay. Got it.
Yeah, he's the doctor.
Cliff Curtis is great in Training Day.
Oh yeah, he's great. Yeah, and I guess in Training Day. Yeah, but I forget about him until I see, I guess, either Sunshine or Training Day.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like he's that forgettable. I mean, his performance is pretty good. It's not like he's done anything bad. It's just weird. He's one of those actors that, like, as soon as I'm done watching that movie, he's just gone. Like,
and there's another actor I love when we see him, but you don't see him as often as I would want him. The Hiroyuki Sanada.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
he's a good actor.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I only saw the first 5 minutes of the new Mortal Kombat movie, which he's in. And that first 5 or 10 minutes it was that they played on YouTube, he was incredible in that. And the critics have even said he's one of the best things of that new movie.
I don't doubt it.
Yeah,
I really liked him in the series Helix. I don't know if you guys have seen that.
I have seen Helix. Yeah, on USA, I think, or Sci-Fi, one of the two.
I really enjoyed it. I mean, it got canceled after 2 seasons, which was a bummer because second season leaves it a massive cliffhanger. But like, it was fantastic. He did such a good job with it.
Wasn't he the bad guy?
I mean, kind of ish.
Kind of. Yeah, I hear you.
Not really. I mean, yeah. So, but he's really good, and I wish we'd see him in more places.
I absolutely agree. And Benedict Wong, you're starting to see a lot more. Like, I mean, he's in the Doctor Strange movies, and you see him kind of pop up every once in a while. I think he's a great actor as well, along with everybody else. I mean, I'm a humongous fan of Cillian Murphy and have been a humongous fan of Cillian Murphy for a long time, even since before, like, even Scarecrow, like Danny Boyle's other movie that he's in, 28 Days Later.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, he is so good in that movie. And I just watched him in A Quiet Place 2 as well. He just does a phenomenal job anywhere he acts.
I think he did a great job in this film, particularly in accepting the weight of his choice after, for example, Sonata dies. Captain Kaneda. Once he dies, like, he realizes, okay, I'm the one that made the decision to come out this far. And, Chris Evans' character is never going to let him forget that, obviously.
No.
But he did a great job acting that weight, that, the weight of decision. And, and the difference between him and Benedict Wong's character after the suicide, like, Cillian Murphy does a great job of just bringing that, I'm handling this differently, but I still have to handle this topic.
No, I agree with that. He's a good leading man when he needs to be. I mean, he plays a lot of kind of secondary characters or But in this one, I would say that I don't know if he's necessarily the actual lead of this movie, but when he's at that part at the head of control, he does a really good job in carrying the scenes that he's in.
He's a good bad guy too. I don't know if you've ever seen. It's a horrible movie, but the movie Red Eye.
No, I haven't seen Red Eye.
The plane movie.
Yeah,
it's a crappy movie. He takes a pen to the neck and just walks it off, like pulls it out and puts a scarf over the hole in his neck, and it's just his hole in his trachea and walks it off. It's a crappy movie, but he acts the heck out of it as the villain, and he does such a good job of bringing menace to the screen like that.
Yeah,
quiet menace of a villain. It does such a good job with it. So
I thought he did great as the Scarecrow as well.
That's true. I kind of forget that one.
Yeah, I mean his part's not huge in it, even though he's supposed to be a main character in that main baddie, but it's not a huge part and stuff. But when he's playing it, he's great. Anyways, I could go on and on about this cast. Rose Byrne, I mean, I love her in Insidious. I mean, she's great. She's a great actress as well. I kept looking at her going, "Is that Rose Byrne from Insidious?" Oh yeah, it is. Just because, she's terrific in it as well. So anyways, and then it's kind of weird. I don't know. It's hard sometimes to see Chris Evans outside of Captain America, but when he does a great job. I mean, Snowpiercer, this one, on and on. Johnny Flame.
Yeah, Johnny Flame. Okay, that one was a little rough.
About that one.
And he plays the
douchebag.
He plays the douchebag really well in Scott Pilgrim. So.
Oh, this
is our third Chris Evans movie that we've reviewed on the podcast.
What's the other one? The third one?
We did Scott Pilgrim.
Scott Pilgrim,
Snowpiercer, and this one. So this is number 3.
Wow. I did not realize that we had done that many Chris Evans movies.
we have the trifecta of Chris Evans here.
One thing that I was kind of, when I was doing the research on this movie a little bit, when I found the time, would it shock you guys to find out that this movie didn't do good at the box office? I don't think I'm totally shocked on it.
I'm not totally shocked. It's sci-fi, which sometimes can get things, but I think I can't remember the marketing for it at all.
Yeah, I don't remember ever seeing any marketing.
I do remember seeing the marketing. I actually just had it up on my screen here just a second ago. That it was. Let me see here. Nope, I can't find it. They were trying to sell it as kind of a global warming type thing with the sun dying, something along those lines. But apparently it wasn't good enough. I know that they only had a $40,000 budget and they made $32 million, and they also had a really hard time making it because they kept comparing it to Solaris, which upsets me because I hate that movie.
Okay, why do you hate Solaris? All right, and also which Solaris, the original or
the George Clooney one? No, the original Solaris is so different. I actually don't mind the original Solaris, but the George Clooney one, I don't know, I just felt bored. It is so slow.
Yeah. I guess it's a psychological thriller. Now I've got hold on. I've got to go redo my picks for this week.
Oh, that's funny, man.
Just throw Solaris in there for you.
Gross.
Be like a time bomb.
You want to find movies that I don't like? Here's one, Crit.
All right.
This, and you can chalk up this and Nicolas Cage's The Wicker Man. I mean, those ones are awful. Oh my goodness. Anyways. At least you got the fun Nicolas Cage thing at the end of Wicker Man, at least. But anyway,
the part where he burns alive, is that what you're talking about? The fun Nicolas Cage thing?
Yeah, that fun Nicolas Cage. It's just fun to watch.
With the bees.
In a really weird way. What do you guys like about this movie? What are kind of your goods and your bads about this movie? I've got some myself. What do you guys have?
I enjoyed some of the signs of mental decline that they already showed on the crew, and then kind of the whole play on, okay, was there actually a guy from the other ship, or is it one of the crew losing their minds? Kind of like that play. But I liked the subtle and sometimes not so subtle things, like the doctor in the room with the son in the very beginning of the film. Like from the very moment of the film when he's like, bathing in ecstasy and light, you're like, okay, something's gonna be hinky here.
Yeah, this is a little creepy. Yeah.
And it was just a little creepy, a little too much, a little, a little out there. And it was some of those subtle things that kind of got out there that did a good job, I think, in that opinion. And then, like I said, I think they did a good job, fairly good job juggling is it really somebody from the other ship, or is it one of the crew that's losing their minds type deal.
Yeah, I can see that. I got to be honest. I thought it was at times a little. I mean, as much as I love this movie, I felt that part was a little confusing at times, and maybe that was on purpose. I kind of, I guess, had a hard time sometimes the first time I watched it of tracking of. I almost thought it was like being like somebody who had died that had come back from like the sun had sent like a demon or something like that. I don't know what I was thinking, but I was drunk on my own drinks when I was watching this movie the first time. But anyways, I just thought it was like confusing because I thought it was almost like a entity that the sun had thrown at him or something like that at first. And then I watched it again. I'm like, oh no, it's somebody else from the other ship. I would say that would be my probably the only thing the transition where it goes from kind of I feel like sometimes a pure science fiction movie, and then it kind of goes horror a little bit. That was always a little bit of a kind of I felt like a complete gear shift in some ways. In the movie. I actually enjoy it now, but at first it kind of threw me for a loop when I first watched it. This is like my third or fourth watching of this movie. And but that would be the only complaint that I had is that. But then I do like how the movie does, like, even though it's kind of a little bit of a gear shift, from like this like mission to the sun. It's still I still like all the action that brings, to pass at the end of them trying to defeat that crew member, the captain, I guess, of the other ship. But I would say that's my good and bad of this movie. I overall just think this movie is stunning. I love the overall look of it. The overall just I think it's very clean. I've noticed that Danny Boyle's work is very similar to this kind of work. It's usually clean. It can be gritty, the storyline or whatever, but his direction is very good. What do you think, Crit?
So I really like some aspects of the movie. I think the ending was rushed, so I'll just get that out of the way. It just feels like it was just like kind of out of nowhere, and not out of nowhere. I mean, it's always leading there, but like the very, very ending, like the bomb going off and the, kind of fantastical, situation that Murphy's character finds himself in. But like that just felt like really, really rushed. Like it was just like this climax was in the last like 2 minutes of the movie, and then the movie's done. Right. And which is fine, but it's definitely not my favorite part of it. But I do like the cinematography to some point. Like the opening shot, which John talked about, with the doctor sitting and kind of bathing in the sunlight, and the way the film kind of really does attempt to convey the power, like just an impression of power, right? The actor reacting to it, the way the camera is shaking and moving and defocusing and stuff like that, and that kind of style. It like there's not many points in which and this is kind of like I like it, but I also sometimes don't really like it. But maybe that's on purpose. Is
okay.
That the camera's very dynamic in this movie. Like it's hardly ever just kind of cropped off, on a tripod and filming a scene. it's moving a lot. It's shaking. It's distorting. They're playing a lot with um, optical effects, which is I think what gives it kind of especially in the later part of the movie, that kind of dreamlike state. Um, when they're battling with the captain, and that's it's a really cool choice in the fact that it's just it can't be boring. Like there's no chance of this movie being boring just because of that, just because how much the camera is really conveying that sense of power and probably delusion and euphoria and stuff like that. I thought that was really cool. But he does weird things with, like, there are so many close-ups in this movie of people's faces and eyes and stuff like that, and it's like it's the camera almost always, even when there's like two people, and it was always an interesting thing to see how they kind of really kind of focused on doing that for the most part, like especially at the beginning of the movie. Like that's kind of the first half of the movie, it felt like that was kind of a thing they did a lot. And then like when they did the outside shots and everything else like that, it kind of backed off into kind of regular sci-fi like things, which I enjoyed because like the just the movement of the models and how they kind of move things around and the transfer between the two discs and everything else like that, I thought was really cool. The design of the ship was interesting, not realistic, because they had gravity in parts that didn't make any sense to me. It's like,
right?
why would the
like
why
if you're
would the
keeping
bomb
track of it,
like,
you're like, how did they get gravity there?
well, yeah, it's like the bomb payload is shown as like immediately behind the first major disc of the ship,
And yet they have
and
gravity.
it's not spinning, but they've got like regular gravity there. And then it's like when they're falling into the sun, they have like regular gravity, can just run down a hallway, and it's like that doesn't make any sense whatsoever uh, in the situation that they're in. But I mean, suspension of disbelief, I guess, not a big deal really when it comes
Yeah,
down to it.
it only
But
comes into play if you're having a lot of other issues with the movie, and then you pay attention. Like to
well,
me,
it,
my first
yeah.
my first watch through, I don't think I ever paid attention to the gravity thing. But definitely, like my
I
second
did.
or third, you're like, okay, wait, something's going on here. But I can
Yeah,
imagine like hating it.
Yeah, I think even in the first time I watched it, it just stuck out. I was like, okay, this really kind of goes against my like just not obviously non-expert knowledge about what would happen as you get closer to the sun. Like it just, you know, are there's, where's this gravity coming from? Um, like I almost wish I did more of a uh, more of an expanse like take on it, where the ships are vertical towers in essence, so that the thrust of the ship is what's providing gravity. So that makes a lot more sense to me.
Yeah.
But it also means
Oh,
that the geometry
point.
of the ship is very different. Like he wouldn't walk into the payload, he'd crawl up to the payload. You'd be up would be the shield and the sun, and down would be the engines and thruster, and that makes way more sense.
And then if you're solving problems, what happens when you start to have to go backwards? You're going to have to reverse everything.
Yeah.
So everything in the ship's going to have to be reversible. Now I'm like in problem solving mode of like,
exactly.
Crap, if I have to design this, how am I going to design this that can switch? Like,
yeah, I mean, from the get go, these ships are designed to go one way. Like they can't go the other way. And so like
sucks for you.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, you could do some really fantastical things with that premise, right? Like whole sections of the ship could shift their floor and ceiling based on which part of the journey you're on. That could be really like you have engines at both ends of this column, right? And it's hidden behind the first shield, sun shield that holds the payload. And then when they detach and they're headed back home, that becomes the engine. The other side isn't, and now all the rooms basically tilt. But of course, this movie was never going to make it to that part, right? Like this is a heroic tragedy type movie where everybody dies at the end.
Yeah, but they talked about going home the whole time.
They did, yeah.
And it's
they
like,
had a simulation.
how the crap was that going to happen if that shield was gone the entire time?
Yeah.
If they're going to burn up and get in front of the sun, no way.
Yeah, this is a fantasy movie. As much as it is a sci-fi, it's a horror fantasy. It creates situations for the sake of the drama, which is cool. I mean, that's kind of why we watch movies,
Exactly.
And that type of thing. And I don't think they ever really meant it to be. I mean, they did hire some scientists, I guess, to consult on the movie, but that wasn't the point. They weren't going for a 2001 Space Odyssey style.
Which was a very big influence of this movie, by the way.
Sure, yeah, and you can see. I mean,
but they weren't like the accuracy and stuff.
Yeah, how do you do with ships in space nowadays without being influenced by 2001 Space Odyssey? Like it's like you literally have to be like, I've never seen it and I will never see it, and even that is in and of itself influenced by, like just even the rejection of it would be an influence. So like, I don't know. I mean, they're like, oh, it's influenced by two. I'm like, that's not really a noteworthy thing anymore.
No,
everything is if it's if it's even remotely set in space. So
good point. Because you're not wrong.
Yeah. So I mean, the camera and the one thing that really stuck out to me, like a cool like just moment that kind of stuck with me this watch specifically as opposed to previous watches, was when Cassie, Rose Byrne's character, basically when they're talking about killing off Benedict Wong's character, right, before they know that he committed suicide, and when Chris Evans' character gets up to walk away, it's just like, sorry, Cassie, he's going to do it anyway, regardless of the non-unanimous vote. She goes, find a kindness, and I thought that was a really interesting way to say, make it gentle or something like that, or or whatever else like that. Like I just thought that was a cool moment.
I would agree with that. It kind of stuck out at me as well when I watched it.
It's kind of the wording of it. Like that's not, if you're trying to convince somebody, to kill someone gently, find a kindness it's more poetic than it is like descriptive. So that's kind of, I thought that was cool. I thought it was kind of a cool line to write.
I agree with that. I agree with that fully. I want to go back to something that you said a little earlier, Crit, that kind of something that I really liked about the movie. You said you said power. A lot of times that this conveys a lot of power. And one of the two things that I felt like when you said that was some of the shots that he showed that conveyed the power, like the power of the sun, was how when they would show those shots of them against the sun, and just shows how minuscule they are compared to it, and just the pure power of that. I thought that was I thought those are some of my favorite shots of the movie. Of that, they're beautifully shot, beautifully rendered, and then the power of the music. When you would see that, I thought the music was really, really effective in this, as well as conveying that power. The of how at times when it needed to be like real, real subtle and real, but it was still always emphasizing, what was going on in the scene, whether it was showing power or showing, really enhancing the theatrics of, something bad happening or something like that. I just really enjoyed the soundtrack and the power of it. So those are the two things that kind of crossed my mind when you said that kind of stuck out to me in this movie.
Yeah. And I think there was a real, like on the part of the movie makers, a real obsession with the sun. And, not unfounded. And I think it's a really cool movie from that aspect. It's kind of a sun worshiping movie, right? It's like deification of the sun itself. And that's, I mean, as ridiculous as the plot is, it's basically a MacGuffin delivered to the sun, for the initiates, is the entire plot. Like just deliver the MacGuffin somewhere. That's essentially the entire plot of the movie. And it's like, okay, if I'm getting plot correct as a definition, but like, it's really kind of that. It's like they're making the trip because of the sun, or the supposed death of the sun, and then they're dealing with kind of the largeness of what they're doing, as far as that goes, and kind of the lethality of the sun. That their technology is basically on a knife's edge throughout the entire process.
That's a good way to put it. Knife's edge, yeah.
Yeah, it's like they're barely able to withstand, from a personal, a mental, and a physical, the power of the sun itself, and that's kind of cool because I think generally that's not something you're exposed to in art, is kind of the power and majesty of the sun, and it's kind of just in colossal, like our minds just can't wrap around, like truly, like kind of internalize the massiveness and level of power of what's basically a mediocre sun, as far as we know. It's not even, that special in the galaxy, but from our perspective, it's still amazingly powerful, amazingly, consequential. And I think this movie does, probably, I can't think of any other movie that comes close to trying to convey that.
No, I agree. That's interesting to think about. I never thought about it that way, that you just explained it. I did have one thing that kind of popped in my head. I'm not sure what you said, something that triggered something more about. You said something about the two ships.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of, I'm going to say it again because, but 2010, the year we made contact, there's a real direct, almost like a direct thing to this. The two ships, and one ship's kind of going out to meet another ship.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys, how much have you seen that movie, but it kind of, I just popped into my head when you said the other ship, that, oh my goodness, this is kind of a similar idea of that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of how they went out, and the ship was dead next to Jupiter, and they kind of went out to find out what happened with Hal breaking the computer. It's kind of weird I never thought about that until you just said that.
Well, and I'm pretty sure they're heavily influenced by Event Horizon. So it's like,
I'm sure they are.
And in some degrees they turned down, the
horror,
but then they turned up the surrealism. It's like with the when they first board the other ship, and you get one frame or two frame shots of the crew, individual crew member pictures as they're going through the thing.
That was cool, by the way. I really liked that. It kind of gave me chills.
Yeah, it's this movie is like, in my mind, is like two parts, right? It's like the sci-fi part, which is, extremely, kind of straightforward, matter of fact, dealing with the things. It's the emergencies, it's the crew operating in sync or even out of sync, but and then the other is like the surreal aspect of it, them standing bathing in the sunlight, and the captain from the other ship, which I see where people come from when they're like, it might be in people's minds, but I don't think so. I think there's way too much physical evidence of him being there for that to be the case.
I agree with that.
It's an interesting idea, but I'm not sold on it.
The first time I leaned more towards the person actually not being there, like I said, it being a demon or something like that. And now seeing it again, I lean to the side that you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, is he superhuman? Does he care about pain? I mean, he kind of does at the end when he kind of rips his arm skin off, which was gross.
He needed sunscreen.
Yeah, like our sponsor. And I think it's
for our sponsor.
Yeah. I think it's the surrealness of it. I actually kind of liked on this watch the surrealness, like just kind of watching, like I'm wondering how they got the certain effects and stuff like that. And, they did a very Jaws-like, don't show the monster, quote unquote, in this movie very often. And they
kind of showed him in little blips, didn't they? It was,
you didn't really get
it was
whole
effective.
Picture. Yeah, it was very effective, I thought. And it kind of kept a mystery about the thing, which I think was what, kind of gets people to go, well, maybe he didn't exist at all, and it was just kind of in everybody's mind. But I think it becomes kind of a slasher flick at the end, a little bit.
again, that kind of threw me off at first when I saw it, but I liked it, but I was just like, oh, it feels like two movies.
It's a tone shift. It's
a serious tone shift.
Yeah, it's a real tone shift.
I really do like the comparison to Event Horizon because I never made that comparison, but that is really crazy. That same part when it's flashing the people when they come on.
Yeah,
I never thought about that. They had to do that exact same thing in Event Horizon.
Something similar, a different point in the movie and showing obviously very different things.
Correct, but it's kind of a similar effect. That's a cool thought that they might have pulled something like that. Because, I mean, the premises are similar in some ways. I mean, they didn't send the ship to hell, but, I mean, the sun's kind of close, but...
Well, I think in Event Horizon, they're on the opposite side of the solar system. I think
right.
Yeah, they're in, like, Jupiter or Saturn.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Well, I just meant by the heat from the sun being hell, or the Event Horizon went to hell.
I gotcha.
Actually.
No, I think it's...
the hell dimension.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know if this is how it went, but I can imagine it totally being like, okay, here's the idea for the movie. We'll restart the sun with a bomb, and this will be a movie about the sun, its relationship with our crew, which is going to be small, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then that's the scaffolding for the entire movie. And then somewhere along the way, someone went, well, hey, what if we injected Event Horizon, have this derelict ship that was already there?
Yeah,
and then kind of add like additional tension by having this overlapping problem that they solve.
And then we got Lawrence Fishburne that comes out of nowhere, and it turns out this is actually Matrix 4.
Okay, that one probably got left on the table.
They did do 32 versions of this. I read that in the thing, trying to get to the version they did. So that might have been in one of those 32 versions.
Oh yeah, it's possible.
Yeah, they did 32 versions over a year. I read in my research.
The script, obviously,
of the script.
32 movies.
Danny Boyle and Alex Garland did 32 versions of the script. Yeah,
gotcha.
And then they filmed only like 30 of them. I'm not sure. No,
yeah,
they like the other two,
working off that train spotting money.
Yep. I've yet to see that movie. One of these days.
Mm-hmm.
But. Yeah. I think a lot of the things that you just pointed out, the artistic part of it, the focus on the sun, I mean, all of that stuff. I think that's what draws me to this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I do like. I mean, don't get me wrong. You know me too well. I do like the sci-fi aspect of it. Love it to death. But I truly love also the idea of them. Going and doing this heroic thing. It's one of those things you put yourself in that place. Could you do it? And I think about that a lot when I watch this movie. Could I do this?
Could you fly past the other ship without investigating to see if the crew wasn't there? Could you kill fellow crewmates in order to save the mission due to oxygen restriction? Which is basically the same choice. So they make the same choice twice. Sort of opposite choices, but still.
And you're right. Every time they make a choice like that, I mean, literally that one. I mean, would I have made the same choice as Cillian Murphy's character?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe out of curiosity, I probably would have been like Rose Byrne's character on the killing of him, of Benedict Wong, as I would have been like, I'm not signing off on that. Even though I know deep down inside, that's the hard part. Deep down inside, I know that it needs to happen.
Well,
because that person, he was crazy. He was out of it. He is not, even if they left him alive, he wasn't a functioning member at that point anymore.
Well, sort of. That's not why they killed him, though. They killed him because they thought that he was the one that destroyed the airlock. They didn't know at the time that the captain had done it from the other ship.
I think I missed that.
Yeah, so they were looking at it from this guy is actually dangerous to the mission, and also we don't have the oxygen for everybody involved.
All I caught was we don't have oxygen. That we have to kill him.
They had that problem earlier, so it wasn't like it wasn't there. But
true.
And, given his mental state, he'd be obviously on the metaphorical chopping block. I guess it's not metaphorical in this sense.
Good. The weakest link. Goodbye.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, that's a tough one, because if you choose not to, you have killed the human race, unless the artificial intelligence could actually fly the ship in. Which at that point in time, they didn't know for sure. They said basically the only thing they know is that,
they know that the bomb will explode if they did it manually. I mean, that was the only 100%.
They didn't know it needed to be manual or anything else like that, because the ship was still in working condition at the time.
Yeah, God, and these are, those are the same things like when I watch Breaking Bad and stuff like that. There's the same ideas. Could I do that? I don't know. Even if it's my life versus theirs, I don't know. It's really hard, man. Yeah. I mean, and I guess I'm glad I don't have to make those decisions.
Yeah,
yet.
And that's an yeah. I mean, this comes into like just whether your immediate decisions outweigh remote decisions. So the decision to save the human race is so large and noble, but at the same time abstract, as opposed to saving the person that's sitting next to you.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, which do you hold as a higher regard? And in some sense, our biology would probably push us to save the person next to us, not the abstract, even though the abstract logically is more important.
It kind of reminds me, do you remember that show we watched that was on Netflix about that mission to Mars, where they had the fourth passenger that they didn't know was on there? Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that same situation there.
Yeah, it's
where
same,
yeah, same idea.
Yeah, you're up against hard limits that you can't, kind of work yourself around, or at least you've exhausted all workarounds.
Yeah, and
I'm not sure they did. I mean,
well,
they have a, but yeah.
No, it was just enough to add tension.
It really was, and
that's okay.
And I'm not huge on the noble suicide trope, which is kind of what they put into the movie. But
yeah, they did.
So it's a little too aggrandizing, for my taste. But it's it is the way they put it together. So
I guess it's a good trope they use to trigger them to go, oh, somebody else must be on the ship.
Well, in the most coarse way, it is their escape hatch to the problem that they created narratively. So they created a problem of the oxygen narratively, and then they escaped hatch solved it by just having him kill himself, as opposed to letting the crew actually go through with a hard decision. It's basically it's allowed the audience to not hate anyone on the crew directly for that.
They already hated Mace. He was going to do it. I mean, Chris Evans' character. No,
kind of hard to hate Chris Evans.
It really is.
Even
it's pretty
back
tough.
Then.
It's true that.
I don't know. Is this before or after Fantastic
Captain
Four?
America?
Oh, it's before.
Oh,
Captain
this is
America.
way after Fantastic Four.
Oh, is it? Okay.
This is after even Captain America.
Are you sure?
When did Captain America come out? I know this. I mean,
this is not after Captain America.
This is not after Captain
Iron Man didn't come out
until
like 2008, 2007.
Really?
Yeah.
This is definitely before. Yeah.
2011. Wow. I did not. So, wasn't Fantastic Four, at least the original one, 99?
I don't think it was. Was it that early? Man, I do not know.
Okay, I did go a little too far back. It was 2005, and the Rise of the Silver Surfer was 2007, the same year as Sunshine.
Okay.
I am just poorly remembering.
No, it's okay. It was a long time ago,
man. So yeah, he was starting to kind of ramp up, wasn't he? He was popping up here and there. And then when was Snowpiercer? 2013.
Well after that, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he was just that was like his kind of like ramp up time, because that was the Fantastic Four was the first one I ever really noticed him in. He might have been in other things, but that was the one I noticed him in.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard. It is hard to, and then they make him die so valiantly at the end of this one too. That's a horrible way to die, by the way. The way.
Yeah, I'm not. As opposed to when we watched Gattaca, they really didn't like lay off the either death by sun or how he died. Basically freezing to death and like bleeding to death. I don't know. I wasn't sure which one was actually the thing that killed him. I guess it doesn't really matter, but like even the people that are like worshiping the sun, they still had him on camera suffering through it, at least the initial part of it, which is crazy. True. But also it makes those deaths more impactful, I think, than the one in Gattaca where he puts himself into the incinerator that has an on button on the inside for some stupid reason. Still don't understand that.
He built it there on purpose. Yeah.
I mean, I love every time we bring up that incinerator, it's the button, man.
The button makes no damn sense.
It doesn't. And why can't you close it on the inside, too? That's another thing. You shouldn't have to be able to close it yourself on the inside.
And I know his legs weren't working, but I'm pretty sure we would have seen flailing arms while he was being burnt to death.
Yeah. It was an efficient incinerator. Oh, anyways, you guys got anything else you want to talk about? I feel like we're starting to wind down a little bit.
That's all I got.
Kurt, was there anything else you wanted to speak about?
That's what I've got.
All right, man. I think this was a good discussion. I actually, I sometimes I can't believe we get enough out of enough content out of these movies. Sometimes I'm like, oh, that's going to be like a 15 or 20-minute conversation, and no,
we're all pretty long-winded. So.
Speak for yourself. Jeez.
I am.
Oh, yeah, you said all. Yeah. We are. Yeah, but that's why it's fun. This is a good way to, inflict our long-windedness on somebody else. And it's their choice to listen to us if they want to. Mm-hmm. All right, let's go to the ratings, guys. What do you guys rate this movie as? I'll go first. And stuff. I do like this movie a lot. I rated it an 8 out of 10 balls of liquid magma, and I would definitely own it.
I'd watch it with my mom, probably. I mean, no reason not to. I don't think she'd stay through most of it, but I wouldn't mind watching it, I guess.
You think she might get up in like the middle of it somewhere?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm good.
There's nothing in her like that's gonna keep her like at the edge of her seat or caring about anything to watch it. So I just expect her to leave halfway through.
You'd be like, well, this is nice, John. Thanks.
Basically.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. What do you think, Crip?
I'd probably give this an 8 out of 10. Probably the same.
Okay.
Because I think it's entertaining, and it's entertaining on multiple watches. Especially for the surreal parts and stuff like that. And the sci-fi is very cool.
I do.
Yeah, I think what knocks the points off for me are like the ending, and
yes.
I don't actually like. I like Cillian Murphy's acting. I don't like the character. Like I know it's the protagonist of the film, but
okay, that's fair.
I don't like him. Like I don't. He's not like a character. I'm rooting for him to survive or to do stuff like that. Like I'm rooting for the whole crew more than anything else. But yeah.
I agree heavily on what you just said. His character isn't likable at all. And I took points off because I do think they could have done a little bit more with that ending too. It's kind of like Bill and Ted Faces the Music. It just like abruptly ends.
Yeah.
And I didn't. Okay, when movies do that, I like some movies that do that. This one I didn't.
Yeah,
I felt like there should have been a little bit more or something. I know they're the whole part of the people down on the earth playing in the snow and stuff, but
as an epilogue, I'm not opposed to that. Like showing the effects, I guess the positive effects of the crew. That's fine. I mean, the movie could have left that up to did they or did they not. And I think some people would react negatively. I wouldn't. I'd be like, oh, okay, that's fine. We saw what we needed to see to conclude the movie. I don't need to see that the Earth was actually saved by this thing, but that's fine. It's not a big deal.
My point is, if they are going to show it, they need to show it. I wanted them to go a little more depth. If they aren't going to show it, fine. I would have been fine with it too.
Yeah.
This is one of those ones where like I think they could have just blew it up, showed the sun getting brighter, and done.
Like I'm intrigued by the cube falling into the sun, being ripped, the shield's being ripped off of it, and it's falling into the sun. It's going further and further and stuff.
I love that part,
but I did not like the wall of flame and the wall of sparks on the other side of Murphy's character, and he's like reaching out, and it's like this supposed to be this beautiful moment, and I'm just totally taken out of it by what? Like, I understand nobody knows what would happen in this fake scenario, but I'm not enjoying that scenario. It looks like somebody's rendering in After Effects, just to kind of, as like a short. It doesn't.
He's having a good time in After Effects.
Yeah, to me, it just didn't feel cinematic like the rest of the movie did.
I definitely can see it because the part where they keep showing the exterior part, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, I see how that takes away a little bit.
Yeah, it's like every other part where they're showing the effect of the sun, it's like super surreal, and the camera is out of focus, and it can't find a point to focus on, or it's so close to the character. Those are cool shots. And then at the very end, it's like a Stargate Atlantis, the TV show level of effects. It almost looks like, and I'm like, I'm kind of taken out of it at that point.
Dial the gate. Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, so
it does feel that way. Now you bring that up, that does feel like it was like an SG-1. Like, all right, we're gonna crash, guys. Dial the gate really fast. Let's get out of here.
He just needs a rubberized staff weapon he's hanging onto at the same time, and they complete the picture.
Oh, that's so funny, man.
All right, I'm out of the podcast now. You guys made fun of Stargate.
You know how much I love it. You stop it. Just stop it. I say that in love.
All right.
Them running around Johnny. With their rubber weapons. Come on. You can't like overlook that. You just kind of have to laugh past it, right?
Nope. And they don't exist.
Okay.
Yep.
The real crit. You don't even
real
know.
Crit.
Yeah.
This is the Galaxy Quest moment. Like, you just have to accept it.
Right. I didn't even build a room
that
like
gate
this.
is not made out of rubber. It's real. It dials.
All right,
Johnny. So, tell us what you got, buddy.
First, you feel bad for someone, then you probably die. Number 2, Australian in the Arctic. Number 3, don't go crazy. It's just the end of the world. So again, it's first you feel bad for someone, and then you probably die. Australian in the Arctic, and don't go crazy. It's just the end of the world.
I kind of like the last one, Crit.
Okay. Let's go with the last one.
Okay. I really like the last one too, but Crit's gonna like palm into or face and plant into his desk. I think. I feel bad.
No.
So first one,
I'm really sorry, Crit.
First you feel bad for someone, then you probably die. Is the killing of a sacred deer.
Oh,
that's with Colin Farrell. It's really good.
Yep.
And number 2, Australian in the Arctic is Prisoners.
Shoot! You're kidding me! Shoot! There's a second time it's been on the.
I was gonna say don't mess with Wolverine's kid, but that one was gonna be way too obvious. So
yeah, that would have been really obvious.
And then Don't Go Crazy. It's just the end of the world is a movie that I saw not too long ago called Take Shelter. 2011 with Michael Shannon, Jessica Chastain, and Tova Stewart.
Huh, I haven't seen it. Take Shelter.
Why am I not going to like it?
No, since we missed Prisoners again.
Oh yeah.
That's what I was going to say. You're going
to. Prisoners would have been fun.
It's the second time it's been on the list.
Oh my goodness.
Okay,
we'll eventually see it. Maybe.
All right.
Oh, well, guys, I can't wait to see this movie. I hadn't actually seen any of those movies, so I don't would have been good either way. But I appreciate you guys with everything, and I think we had a really good discussion today. And to everybody out there listening, thank you for supporting our channel, and click the like button if you like what you heard here. And as always, may you be excellent to each other and live long and prosper from all of us here at Josh's House of Nerd. Good night.
Thanks for watching. For more nerdy awesomeness, please like and subscribe and check out our other nerdy videos.